This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room, Stephen. It's a pleasure to have you here. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. No, Jason and I are always thrilled to have somebody of your caliber on the show. I can already tell, you keep it light and sweet, but when it's time to do business, it's time to do business. And those are the kinds of people we love, especially for the show, because of what we're trying to accomplish with it. So that being said, tradition around here is to ask the first opening question. Do you yourself come from a family of entrepreneurs, working professionals, creatives?
No, I was a poor kid, kind of grew up in the street type of thing. Alcoholic father, mother worked a couple of different jobs, but I, for whatever reason, I don't even know how I became an entrepreneur, but I came very, very young age. I became an entrepreneur because I didn't have the things that the other kids in school had. I didn't have a bike. So I went to the dump and got all the parts, and I built a bike. And fortunately for me, I was always one of the best athletes, if not the best athlete in the school. So I never got ridiculed for that stuff because I was the captain of a hockey team or football team or whatever it may be. And so people wanted that, and I would start making bikes and selling them at a ridiculous price because they wanted one, right, of these ugly bikes that I built. So yeah, I just kind of fell into that routine and just loved the whole idea of being creative and coming up with ideas.
It never ceases to amaze me how people with the hardest lives have had to be the most creative from like early on. Whenever I hear stories like that, and I just think, knowing what I know about where they are now, and then hearing that as an origin, it's almost inevitable that someone facing those kinds of obstacles early on has to strive for more when they're older. So at what point, it's you're like, selling bikes, way more creative than selling candy at school, and yet it's the same spirit of things. At what point did you really start to take it serious? Because you have this whole part of your life that you're an athlete, professionally, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. 5 years I played professional hockey. For me, it was, I lived in an area of Toronto. I was born and raised in the downtown core of Toronto. I lived in an area that was really there was like a line. I don't say because it wasn't really like, all the crappy over there and all the good here, but there was kind of a line where these were the people with the money down on this side, and these were the people who not necessarily were poor like we were, because my dad worked hard. He had a good job, but he was an alcoholic, and so most of it just went into the bottle. And as I said, my mom had 2 jobs, and she enjoyed those, but that kind of left us to do whatever we wanted to do. But I ended up, because of my athletic ability and I was gifted for whatever reason, I ended up hanging around with all those guys with money. So I was going to these big homes that their bathrooms were bigger than our home, and it was like, wow. I mean, and I was talking to their parents about different things, and I thought, wow, this is going to be me one day. This is what I'm going to be. And then I was fortunate enough to actually sign a professional hockey contract at 19, which then put me on the road to be able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, and kind of be my own boss, which has kind of led me into, entrepreneurism.
There's this confidence that was just a part of who you were, regardless of what your life looked like. And you said it yourself, wow, this is going to be me someday.
Oh, for sure.
Which isn't everyone's response to those kinds of circumstances.
No,
right?
Guys I grew up with, I can tell you right now, there's several guys I grew up with who aren't with us anymore. Several others are in jail. It's, we kind of, I think in life in general, we kind of adjust to our circumstances and we decide what we want out of those. I was saying it earlier to Jason that, it's really not what happens to us in life, but how we react to it. right? And that's really what it's all about, because we're all going to get slammed against the door and all that other stuff. But what are you going to do about it? And, many people just want to focus on that. It's like solving problems, right? You're never going to solve a problem if you're focused on the problem. What the hell? It's never going to go away. But all of a sudden, if you shift your mind to focus on the solutions, man, and if that's all you're doing, you're going to solve every single problem that comes your way. But a lot of people have difficulty doing that.
Man, I mean, that could have been the whole episode.
Okay, see you later.
Now, before we go any further, I want to let Jason chime in and share some of his reflections so far on what you've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always find it like super interesting that, like I didn't come from a really wealthy family or anything either. I mean, I was a farm kid. So it's like, I love referencing this story because a lot of people can really relate to it. And when I was 9, one of the things my father used to have me do was every morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning before we go to school, he would have dumped about a ton of grain by the sheep feeders and made me hand shovel that in there. Right. When you're 9, you don't get it, right? Because you're sitting there with a scoop shovel, shoveling this in there, looking over there, and there's a tractor with a scoop on it, right? And you're like, whoosh, done, right?
Yeah.
And it made no sense, right? But obviously later in life, it was like, yeah, I got it now. I understand it, right? It was about the hard work and the sacrifice of it all. To instill those things in you, right? That pretty much shape who we end up being in life for the most part, right? I think struggle is the ultimate equalizer, right? It is the game changer of most people's lives. When you have to go through something in your life that's hard, it is an equalizer. And that's why I joined the military, because the military is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're black, if you're white, if you're Hispanic, if you're whatever, right? It doesn't make any difference. Everybody gets treated the same. And it's the great equalizer, right? So we go through these points in life where sometimes, goes back to many conversations that we've had where it seems like when you start looking in the backgrounds of people, right, that we've had on the show, there's always this like resonating story of military. They were an athlete of some sort. They came from not rich family backgrounds, so on and so forth. So it's interesting that is a kind of solidifying fact almost behind many, many entrepreneurial experiences. It's not everybody, of course, but I mean, but it seems to be a theme. And so there's like a theme of lesson to be learned from all these conversations that we hit record on, right? And there's something special to take away from that. And that's relatable back to your story too, which is a fantastic thing. And thanks for sharing, being open to share that part of it.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah, it starts to make a little more sense now when we look at how it is you went from your athletic career into business and the type of business that you're currently on a mission to help launch, which is like a social impact type of business, right? From what I have here in my notes, you're looking to bring purpose and profit together to solve serious issues, right? So can you tell me where did this vision really start to take shape for you? Was it during your years as an athlete where you started thinking that's my next move?
No, you know what? I've always, I always kind of bought into the whole there's haves and have nots, and that's just the way life is. then as I got out of athletics and into business, I took a job. Actually, I got a job after I got hurt into the advertising world, and I just loved that. And after 4 years of getting a real good education with this particular job, I started up my own, built up my own company, and then sold that. Did very well with that. But then I started to realize that, start to question almost everything. No, this is the way it is. It's like an 11-year-old kid, right? Well, why? Or maybe an 8-year-old kid. Why is that? Why? And so I started asking these questions. And why is that? Why are there 50 million people that go hungry every day in Canada, United States? Why? What's the reason behind that? And as I started asking these questions, I wasn't getting answers. I couldn't, and I was deep diving. I'm partnered with Google. They're giving me information. I'm asking, getting these things. They're giving me stuff and everything. I mean, there was no answers. So after I because I knew that chapters, I believe that our life is like a book, right? It's all comprised of these different chapters, right? So the next chapter for me after I sold was, I'm going to make a difference in the world. Now, the funny thing about that is I've had some great mentors, some unbelievable mentors, world-class mentors like Stephen Covey, Brian Tracy. And these guys always ask me, these guys always ask the same question. It drives me crazy. But what do you want on your tombstone? Right? I mean, what a dumb question. I always told them, will you stop asking me that damn question? Right? You want me to fast forward to when I'm dead? I mean, who cares? I'm dead, right? Stephen said, come on. So I instinctively say that he made a difference in the world. I mean, who doesn't want that on their tombstone, right? He made a difference in the world. Oh, Christ, this guy's fantastic. Or this person. And you're thinking about the great people like Oprah, like some of these people. I mean, she could have that on her tombstone and wow, that's true. And everybody knows it. So then I would always get, well, have you? And, I'd push back and say, of course I have. I've been a million to charities. I've been on boards. I've done really, really well. But inside, there was always something that said, really? Are you sure? I mean, you can do more than that. So now when it came time to actually do that, it was like, so what are you going to do? What can you do to really make a difference? And that's when I started to do the deep dive into this whole purpose and profit. And I have so much research on this space over the last 6 years that it's frightening, honestly, how much I know. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, is there anything you don't know? And I said, well, about this particular space, probably not. I've been studying it nonstop for the last 6 years. So we just felt that, with the amount of money we give, which, by the way, whenever I ask them that, when I say, how much money do we give in Canada, the United States, to charities and nonprofits every year, there isn't a person that gets within $100 billion of the right answer. Not within 100 billion. So you can imagine how much we give. And so on, and causes aren't going down. So it basically, I said to myself as a strategist that the model is not working, and we're never going to solve the problems unless we change the way we're doing things. Einstein had a great quote saying, we're never going to solve today's problems by using the thinking that actually caused the problems from yesterday. So we need new thinking. So that's what I decided to do. And I just decided that it needed to be a new model. And I did a deep dive into what was required. And I came up with 3 real things. We had to have transparency, had to have sustainability, and we had to have collaboration. Because we all know, all your listeners know, that we're stronger together. I mean, how can you not be stronger together? Yet here's an entire industry that doesn't work together. So that's what I set out to do, and that's what we're doing right now.
Man, it sounds like you're still the captain of a team on the ice, right?
Well, I was a captain of a few of them, but yeah, we're now. It's a lot bigger than the team is now broadened out, and we're involving some great people. And the great thing is, I can tell you that it's really encouraging. Is there's a lot of great people out there wanting to make a difference and wanting to do good. Unfortunately, they've in the past, like I did, you got on a board of a charity, you did this, you did these things, you give your money to a charity. But now things are starting to change because people are looking at that and saying, why are things getting worse?
Yeah.
Last year, we gave $484 billion to charities and nonprofits just in Canada, United States. That's $500 billion. Why aren't a bunch of these causes going down? They're not. In fact, in most cases, they're going up. So at what point do you have to say it won't matter how much we give anymore? We just need new models if we're going to actually change things. And so then that's what we're setting up to do.
Yeah, no, I'm glad someone's having this conversation because there for a while there's been a lot of, in fact, most young people in particular are pretty cynical about the idea of raising funds for this or raising it, because at this point it feels almost like the same way a politician that shows up and says all the things they're going to do, they get all the votes, they get all the campaign funds, and then they get voted in and realize there's all these structures in place that even if they wanted to, they could never actually deliver.
Exactly.
So I
that's
love
the model.
that you're saying, the models are designed for a point of failure at some point.
Pretty much they are. And just to be clear, so your listeners understand, I'm not suggesting that charities are embezzling funds or anything like that. Their intentions are absolutely pristine. They really want to make a difference, but it doesn't matter. It's like building a house. If you don't have the right tools, your intention is to build a house, you're not going to build that house. You're not going to be able to. You don't have any hammers or anything. So I just think that's the situation we're in right now.
It's like any nonprofit, even if everyone wanted to work for free, they still need cash flow to operate, right? And so again, where does the model really come in to support, like you said, sustainability, right? The transparency, of course. And for me, I like the conversation that you're pushing forward because it needs to be had, especially when there's things like the United Nations and the Sustainable Development Goals and what they're doing and how many trillions or billions of dollars have gone in that direction and not a thing has changed. You're right. It's only getting worse if people start asking the question.
There's no question.
Yeah. So no, I love that you're doing that. So for me, I think what makes the most sense is if you could have anyone who's listening right now understand the difference between a sustainable model versus one that maybe it's more traditional, which would by default make it not sustainable. What would you have them understand about being able to shape business in a way where it has that double bottom line, triple bottom line even?
Yeah, I would make people understand that there are ways in which we can solve problems, but the models have to be built so that they will actually solve the problem. You have to, our models are built specifically where we walk through each touch point. And in our focus groups, we actually did this. We said, well, this is what you're doing. You're buying the food, right? And this is how much the food costs. And they were eating the food. And we're like, now we're a for-profit social enterprise. You think we're getting rich? And every single person from the young to the old said the same thing. We don't even know how you're manufacturing it for this price. I mean, non-GM organic food. I mean, no, this is fantastic. And by the way, how are you doing it? We told them we have great manufacturers who are partnered with us, and they're giving us these volume discounts, which we're just passing on. So they were ecstatic about that. And then the food charities that we partner with right now, they distribute the food. So I was just saying the transparency side of things is that, you buy the food, we send that food to the charity in your name. And then Jason, if Jason's doing it, he gets an email from that charity saying, we received the food. Now we're putting in the hands of the kids or the people who need it. So my motto, 100% of what you're giving the charity is going directly back to the people who need it. And everyone was saying, we don't even know how you're making it for that price. So transparency, everybody was happy about. We got 2 thumbs up from every demographic. They were like, yes, this is the future of giving. So that was the one thing that we wanted to do, build a model where transparency was key, because in the young generation today, if you don't get it, they're just demanding it. If you don't have it, they just won't give, period. Don't even try. So that was really, but sustainability is easy. Everyone talks about sustainability. I've been doing sustainability for years. How do you create real sustainability? It's really simple. Just make sure everybody wins more than they put in, and then why would they stop? Why is it so complicated? I don't know why people are already, it's sustainability is such a big thing. I just said this to a group in Europe I was talking to, and I'm like, yeah, you guys are talking about sustainability. I don't understand the problem. In my model, every touch point wins more than they put in. So I can guarantee sustainability. Simple, right? And they're like, wow, yeah, I guess so. Well, yeah.
What a
So when
novel
Jason,
idea.
I know,
Everyone
just make
wins.
sure everyone wins more than they put in. I did that for years. I did it with my suppliers. I actually turned down some of my suppliers. They said, we'll give you this price. And I'm like, what? How do you give me that price? It's like 20% lower than anybody else. Why? Well, cash flows a little bit. No, 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 no. I'm not doing that. You give me the proper price and everything, and we'll do something out there. No, because eventually, then if they're giving me that price, they're not going to be happy with that price, and the cash flow gets back good and everything. They're going to say we can't do that anymore, and maybe they'll just not supply because they feel bad about saying it, and I have to get another supplier. No way. Everybody's got to win more than they put in. So in our model, every touch point does that. And that, I think, is one of the most important things that we all have to take into it. And by the way, that's a human thing. It's not just specifically business or whatever. Just make sure everybody wins more than they put in, and you'll get sustainability.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of similarities between the way you think about business and the way I hear Jason think about business on a regular basis. And I think it just has something to do with people who have been able to accomplish a certain level in their life and just realize when they look back on it, these are the things that really made it work and have brought me to where I am. Yeah. And I need to be the example of that everywhere else that I go. And so I feel fortunate to be able to have these kinds of conversations, because I can often catch myself thinking a little smaller than I should be. And these are the kinds of conversations that push you to think bigger about what it is you're doing, even right now with your own operation, and how you can create more sustainability, if it will, and transparency in the process, and the kind of impact that can have across the entire marketplace of whatever industry you're in.
For sure.
I think it's a great lesson in leadership while focusing on what you've been doing. I mean, it's a long way from building bicycles. And now kids out there have an opportunity potentially to also have bicycles, right?
That's right. Absolutely. That's for sure. We did it. We did a lot of great things. And now, of course, we're launching the very first social impact franchise in the world, which you'll hear about all of Q1 next year. NFL guys involved, some big people galvanizing communities. And we're really we've literally cracked the code here that we can go into each community, and through this model, everybody can win more than they put in, and we can solve some serious problems. So yeah, we're really excited about that.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that. Maybe we'll get you back on here to be able to talk about that.
Yeah, anytime.
With that said, before I go on to a couple of other things, I want to check in with Jason, because I know he's loving this conversation.
No, I mean, see, the difference between how, I don't know how to say that to where it's not offensive to somebody. It's the level of how people think, right? I mean, some people, I truly believe we think on different planes, right? So, you can always tell when you're talking to somebody that's on an elevated plane of thinking versus somebody that's very singular. This is something me and Phillip were talking about earlier today, was the singular approach, the me versus the multi-layer approach, right, where you're creating 3 to 4 wins in that whole thing that create impact amongst so many that it ripples out, and the effect that it has is profound. And I wish we could get more people in that train of thought all the time, right? I mean, people often, I hear people say, well, the leaders of this country, they're not the leaders of this country. They're appointed officials. Let's get that straight. So that's two different things, right? So, but I wish we could get them to think more broad in those, the people that have the ability to make these big ripple effects and changes. Could get those folks to think not so singular and more broad. Right. We'd live in a much better world.
Oh, no question. I mean, you talk about broken systems. I mean, that might be the biggest of all in every country, by the way, not just the United States,
Right.
in every country. But anyway, we won't go there.
That's probably why they went into politics instead of business, though, right? Because
Well,
business people solve problems.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I can
Politicians
think.
politicians seem to make more problems than they fix.
How else are we supposed to stay in business?
Yeah, right.
That's right. No question.
Oh man, no, it's funny. I love this conversation and everything that it stands for. So I can't thank you enough, Stephen, for bringing that
My
energy.
pleasure.
You know, I have a feeling this happens everywhere you go. With that said, I want to take a quick break to actually something I think you'll be able to appreciate as well if you don't already know about it. Part of the reason this conversation is possible is because we have supporters who are listening to the show, part of the community that listen, and we gave a couple of people the opportunity to be featured as we have these conversations. And one of them is Sharing the Credit is the name of this company. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. And essentially every time somebody swipes a debit or credit card and they own a business, that ends up going away as a fee. There's a fee involved for banking, right? Now, legally, we're allowed to actually change and decide what nonprofit that can go to. And this company, Sharing the Credit with Will Black, has actually found the way to make that happen for everyone. And any business that's interested in creating impact, just literally based on the spirit of this conversation, just by taking that one step, they can also be a part of that change. So I know that you can appreciate that. So all you have to do is go to sharingthecredit.com and let them know that the War Room sent you. Now, with that said, getting back to the conversation, Stephen, which I feel like you'd appreciate what we just did there. I want to ask you, where can people go to learn more about what you're doing and the things that you're offering?
Yeah, probably the best place to go is rtgroupusa.com. That's our main company. And everything, a lot of the stuff, most of the stuff we do is on there. The big one that's being launched now is called Purpose Driven Travel. And that's purposedriventravel.net right now, although everything is getting redone, and because we're launching in Q1, that will be there'll be 35 franchises all owned by NFL athletes. And there'll be about another 50, so close to 50 franchises be launching in the United States in the first 4 or 5 months of next year, in all different cities and everything. So that'll be really cool. Some big names involved in that as well. But those, you can have a look at that. But rtgroupusa.com has pretty much got all the different programs we have on it, and you can find out more about the model. People always ask me, well, how do you do this? And so they want to know exactly how that is. And it's the funny thing is we tell people, you really want a simple version? We sell food, right? It's just, that's what we do. We just find all these different ways to sell food. And by selling food, then we're able to do all the magic that we do from there. So, that's what happens.
Again, it's funny. I was doing some work for a PR agency with one of their clients. Yes, just last night I was writing up some articles on this particular business, and this lady runs like a cleaning company, but she comes from like a background of like a family drowning in alcoholism and poverty, and then she herself created a cleaning company that then turned into an accelerator for other cleaning companies that are stepping into the Airbnbs and this
Good
and that.
for her.
Right? Yeah, and I'm like listening to this, and I'm thinking to myself, people overthink business so
Sure
much.
do. Constantly.
I am a culprit of this, right? Because then I hear like, what are we doing? Simply put, food, cleaning. I mean, you name it at the most basic levels. But the mission behind these things is everything.
Yeah.
She's like helping people with like any women that are struggling, that are in battered, abused relationships. All the things that she like now she's empowering through gainful employment. So when I hear stories like hers and yours and what you're doing, I'm like, man, this is how business is done.
Absolutely.
So with that said, if you could have invited anybody to this conversation here today, Stephen, who would you have loved to have had here, and why them?
So, this is I always get asked this question, by the way. And, there's people that I've admired and would have liked to just, people like Mandela or, sort of great people all over the world. But if it was today and you're asking me today, who would it be? It would be Elon Musk. I would have him today because I think that if I could sit down with him and he could listen to exactly what we're doing, that he would want to put a lot of money into what we're doing because we could solve this problem globally with the right financing. And, so it's really just a matter of getting to somebody like that. And he's that type of guy where, he sees something, he reacts very quickly to it, as we all know. And it's like, yeah, okay, this can get done. Okay, good. Well, like, what do you need? Yeah, what do you need? $100 million, whatever. There it is. Boom. And we've funded everything out of our own pocket with this, and it's not like we don't have money, so we put millions in ourselves. But when you're talking about that type of money, my wife often says, "Man, you'd be dangerous if you partnered up with that guy." Wow, like what you could do to the world. So, we've got I've got 20 different projects that I want to roll out, kind of all under the same umbrella, doing identifying different communities that need help. Like, by the way, next chapter that's all around the veterans, Jason, that we are going to roll out next year sometime. Really needed. So we got a lot of different things that we can help different people with, and it's just really a matter of getting the right resources, and that's who I would have on right now.
I love that answer specifically because I remember on Twitter when Elon called out, the UN and was like, if you could give me a plan on how you actually want to lead up this ambition of solving world hunger, I'll throw you the money. They never sent.
Of course not, because the statement originally from the UN was so asinine. I mean, you can't even believe, if you know all the numbers and everything. And that guy who said that if he had, X amount of dollars, it's bizarre. Plus, if you knew really deep down what's going on, they don't have a model that can do it anyway. It doesn't matter. He could give them all of his money. It's still, I told you already, it's there. This isn't my opinion anymore. This is fact. We've got the data to prove this. $500 billion every year virtually. And we're not solving any problems. It's not about the money, guys. It's about the model in which, we must build around. And that's basically why we're focused on what we're doing.
Yeah, man. No, I'm going to find a way to somehow get those ears to hear what you're doing, man. There has to be a way because, yeah, it's, I actually have somebody in mind, a colleague of mine, Cal Fussman, who spoke with Seth Godin about this on their podcast. And Seth Godin had told him, we can afford to give everyone fruits and vegetables, like everyone. He said, because how many fruits and vegetables can you possibly eat as a human?
Absolutely.
We're not talking about, hamburgers and cheeseburgers, like quite literally fruits and veggies shouldn't be a problem for the population of the world. That's like a basic. So
go Google, Google, Philip, go Google how much food we throw out every month.
I don't even, man.
Yeah, you may not want to Google that because it's we have enough. Everyone talks about lack of food. There's no lack of food. It's ridiculous. It's one of the dumbest statements you'll ever hear. We have way more than enough food to feed everybody. If we stopped throwing out the millions and millions of pounds that we do every month, we could do it. And one of our models, for example, I just told somebody this yesterday. They said, well, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? It's like, well, we probably won't be manufacturing the same food we are today. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, we're investing in repurposing food. That's one of the things we do. We want to use the same bottle, just to be buying it, but it'll be food that can be repurposed and given. We're opening up 4 soup kitchens in every single city that we go into. And that will be all used for fresh stuff to make fresh soups and all that kind of stuff. So now you have thousands of people being able to go and get that. And so we have ideas to solve some of these other problems. It's not just simply making sure everybody has a meal, right? It's got to be more than that. So,
no, this is amazing, man. I've had an absolute pleasure talking to you. It's tradition for Jason to close us out, but but it's been awesome, Jason.
Thank you.
Yeah, Stephen. Hey, great. I love the mission you're on. God, keep pushing, keep pushing. Hopefully this reaches the ears of Elon himself.
That'd be cool.
And he
man.
gets to hear it. Or sometimes it just takes somebody hears it and goes, man, let me talk to Jill that knows Bob. That's Elon's best friend, right?
That's the way it happens, right?
That's the way it happens, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks for taking the time to be here and spend a little bit of time with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. My pleasure. Appreciate it very much. Enjoy the rest of the day and have a great weekend.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.